She posted a normal photo. Just that. A simple selfie, nothing special. In 3 minutes, 27 likes. In 10 minutes, 52. Comments coming in. Private messages popping up. Compliments. Attention. Instant validation. He posted the same thing at the same time. A common photo from his day. 6 hours later, 3 likes. One from his mother. Another from a distant cousin. The third from a bot, probably. No comments. No messages. Absolute silence. This is not a story about injustice. It is about something much deeper and more disturbing. 2 completely different psychological realities happening at the same time, in the same world, creating 2 life experiences that never touch. And the most frightening part? Nobody talks about this openly. Let's get straight to the point. Young, attractive women live inside a continuous system of social validation. This is not an opinion. It is pure observation. From adolescence through their early 20s, and sometimes beyond, they exist in an environment where external approval is constant, predictable, and abundant. We are not talking about celebrities or influencers. We are talking about the ordinary woman you know, who works in the office next door, who studies at the same university, who goes to the same gym. Meanwhile, the average man lives in a desert of validation. He wakes up, works, makes an effort, tries to connect, and receives little or no emotional feedback from the world around him. His digital and social experience is marked by indifference. He learns early that no one will validate him just for existing. That value is not something given, but built. That attention must be earned through sweat, competence, and persistence. Now, here's where things get really interesting. This difference does not only create distinct social experiences. It shapes the entire psychology, expectations, decisions, and sense of identity of each person. It is as if 2 people were playing the same game of life, but with completely opposite rules. And no one explained this to them. Think with me. When you receive constant validation, what happens in your brain? You internalize that you are desirable, that you are important, that the world wants you. This creates a powerful psychological buffer. Problems seem smaller because you always have a network of approval supporting you. Negative feedback hurts less because there are 50 positive messages compensating for it. You develop a confidence that does not need to be earned, it simply exists. But there is a hidden side to all of this. Something that does not become obvious in the early years. When validation is constant, you stop questioning whether it is real. You confuse attention with genuine value. Likes become metrics of self-esteem. DMs turn into indicators of how much you are worth in the social marketplace. And here lies the danger. You begin to believe that this attention is permanent. That it will always be there. That you have infinite time to decide what to do with it. Meanwhile, the man who grew up in silence is building something else. He has no choice. Either he develops real competence, or he remains invisible. Either he creates tangible value, or he stays ignored. There is no shortcut. There is no free validation. So he learns to become someone who deserves attention, not someone who simply receives it. This is the invisible dynamic that structures entire relationships, careers, and life choices. And the most disturbing part? Both sides are suffering. She is being conditioned to depend on something that will disappear. He is being forced to build without any emotional incentive. Neither of them asked for this. Neither of them fully understands what is happening. But a turning point is coming. A moment when this entire structure begins to crumble. When constant validation reveals its true face. When forced silence reveals its hidden purpose. If you are enjoying this content, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. And in the comments, say which city or country you are watching from and whether you have already noticed this dynamic around you. Because what comes next will completely change the way you see relationships, social media, and the construction of value in modern life. Let's go deeper into what is really happening in the brain when you live in these 2 opposite worlds. Because this is not just about social differences. We are talking about deep psychological conditioning that shapes every decision, every expectation, every vision of the future. When she opens Instagram in the morning, there is a predictable pattern. Notifications waiting. New messages. Connection requests. Comments on old stories. This happens every day. It is not a special event. It is normality. Her brain releases dopamine with each notification. Not because she is shallow or vain, but because the human brain is programmed to respond to social approval. It always has been. The difference is that before, this happened occasionally. Now it happens 40 times a day. He opens the same app. Silence. Maybe a notification from the algorithm suggesting content. No personal messages. No compliments. No directed attention. He posts something about a professional achievement. 3 likes. He posts a travel photo. 5 likes. He stops posting because he started to feel ashamed of his own public silence. This daily cycle creates 2 completely different types of self-perception. She develops the sense that she is being observed, desired, important. Not consciously. Not in an arrogant way. But subconsciously, a solid foundation of self-confidence forms. She walks differently. Speaks differently. Makes different choices. Because there is an invisible army of validation supporting her. He develops the opposite. A sense that he needs to constantly prove his value. That no one will give attention for free. That he has to be exceptional to be noticed. This creates hunger. Ambition. But it also creates wounds. Resentment. The feeling of always chasing while others were born at the starting line. Here is where the real problem begins to appear. This constant validation creates a dangerous illusion, the illusion of infinite time. When you have always had attention, when you have always been desired, when you have always had options, your brain learns that this is permanent. So she postpones important decisions. That serious relationship? It can wait. That good guy but not perfect? Maybe someone better will appear. That commitment? It feels limiting when you have so many possibilities. The problem is that these possibilities have an expiration date. And no one warns you when it is approaching. Meanwhile, he is making decisions with a different sense of urgency. He knows he cannot wait. That he needs to build now. That there is no line of opportunities waiting for him. So he invests in his career early. Develops valued skills. Builds professional networks. Not because he is wiser or more ambitious. But because he has no choice. Reality forces him to grow. Let's talk about something even deeper, the difference between attention and real value. She receives massive attention. But how much of that is genuine value? How many of those men sending messages really want to know her? How many are willing to commit seriously? How many see something in her beyond physical appearance? The answer is uncomfortable. Few. Very few. But she does not know this. Because volume of attention seems to indicate volume of value. 50 messages seem to mean 50 real options. But in reality, they mean 50 superficial attempts. The confusion between these two things destroys more futures than any other modern illusion. He, on the other hand, learns the difference early. When he finally receives attention, he knows exactly what is real and what is superficial. Because he spent so much time with nothing that he developed a precise radar. He values differently, chooses differently, commits differently. And here lies the invisible tragedy. The system that gave her constant validation also robbed her of the ability to evaluate real value. The system that denied him early validation also gave him brutal clarity about what truly matters. Neither of them realizes this while it is happening. She thinks she is living better. He thinks he is being treated unfairly. Both are partially right. Both are partially wrong. And time is running to reveal which half is which. And then it happens. The moment no one warned would come. The day she posts the same photo as always and realizes that something has changed. The likes take longer. The comments decrease. The messages stop arriving with the same frequency. It did not happen overnight. It was gradual. Silent. Inevitable. At 25, she still had lines of attention. At 28, the line shortened. At 32, she looks at her phone and feels something she has never felt before, irrelevance. The system that supported her entire life began to shut down. And she does not know how to deal with it because no one ever taught her. Here is the brutal truth that no one wants to say out loud. External validation has an expiration date. It is not permanent. It is not yours. It is borrowed. And like every loan, one day the bill comes due. And when it does, the interest is devastating. She looks around and realizes that younger women now receive the attention that used to be hers. That 22-year-old girl who just joined the office has the same energy she had 10 years ago. The same looks. The same doors opening. The same constant validation. And for the first time in her life, she understands, it was never hers. It was just her turn. Meanwhile, the man who spent most of his 20s being ignored is in a different place now. He built a career. Developed real skills. Created tangible value. He did not depend on external validation, so when it finally arrived in his early 30s, he knew what to do with it. He did not confuse attention with identity. He knew the difference between being desired and being valuable. And here lies the most painful irony of all. The system that seemed to privilege her in the beginning ended up being a trap. While he was forced to grow, she was encouraged to remain. While he developed deep roots, she built on shifting sand. While he learned to generate value, she learned to consume it. It is not her fault. Let's make that absolutely clear. She did not choose this system. She did not ask to be constantly validated since she was 15. She did not plan to confuse likes with love, attention with respect, messages with real value. She simply responded to the environment. Anyone would. Any human brain exposed to the same conditioning would do the same. But ignorance does not protect you from consequences. And the consequences have arrived. Now she faces a crisis he never had. Who am I when no one is watching? What is my value when validation stops? What did I truly build while living inside this bubble of constant approval? The answers are often terrifying. Because for years she outsourced her sense of identity. She let likes, comments, and attention define who she was. And now that they are gone, she is looking in the mirror and does not recognize who is there. He suffered too. Let's be honest about that. The years of silence hurt. The feeling of being invisible left scars. Resentment grew. Loneliness hurt. But that pain had a hidden purpose. It forced him to become someone. It compelled him to build substance. It left no choice but to develop real value. And here is the final twist. What seemed like a curse became a foundation. What seemed like a privilege became a prison. Time revealed the truth that had been hidden from the beginning. External validation is fast fuel. It burns bright, lights everything up, but does not last. Internal value is coal. It takes time to ignite, looks less impressive, but sustains the fire over long distances. She received fast fuel her entire life and believed it was wealth. He was forced to mine coal and thought he was being punished. But decades later, when her fuel ran out and his coal is still burning, both finally understand the game they were playing. This is the modern tragedy. It is not about men versus women. It is about a system that deceives both. That offers temporary privileges and calls them victory. That imposes early hardship and hides that it is training. That confuses the two until it is too late to change strategy. So how do we escape this trap? How do we break this cycle that hurts everyone? The answer is not comfortable, but it is necessary: radical awareness and immediate action. For the women reading this right now, especially the younger ones who are still receiving constant validation, listen carefully. That attention you receive? It is not your identity. Those compliments? They are not your value. Those messages? They are not a guarantee of a future. All of this is borrowed. And the more you depend on it to feel complete, the harder the fall will be when it ends. Use this temporary privilege intelligently. While the doors are open, build something real. Develop skills that no one can take away from you. Create competencies that survive beyond youth. Invest in character, knowledge, and capability. Do not confuse the attention you receive with the value you need to build. And most importantly, make important decisions while you still have options. That serious relationship you are postponing? That commitment that feels limiting? That stability you think is boring? They will not be available forever. The relationship market is brutal to those who wait too long. Not because it is fair, but because it is real. For the men who spent years being ignored, carrying resentment and bitterness, there is a liberating truth waiting: you were trained. That pain had a purpose. That loneliness forced growth. That silence taught self-sufficiency. You were not punished. You were prepared. But beware of the opposite trap. Do not let resentment consume your victory. Do not spend your years of maturity taking revenge for the rejections of your youth. Do not use the value you built to hurt those who did not want you before. That turns your solid foundation into sand as well. You won the long game. Do not lose now to bitterness. The lesson here transcends gender. It goes straight to the heart of the modern human condition. We live in an era that confuses appearance with substance, attention with love, validation with value. And this confusion is destroying lives on both sides. External validation is a drug. It works like any other addiction. The first dose is free. The feeling is incredible. You want more. You need bigger doses to feel the same effect. And when the source dries up, the withdrawal is terrifying. The only difference is that no one calls this an addiction. We call it self-esteem, social success, being desired. But there is a different path. A path that is harder at the beginning and more rewarding at the end. Building identity from the inside out. Developing value that does not depend on external approval. Creating a life that works even when no one is applauding. This applies to everyone. Men, women, anyone trapped in this system. The system is not going to change. Social media will not stop creating addictive cycles of validation. Human biology will not stop responding to group approval. But you can change how you play within this system. You can choose not to let likes define your value. You can decide to build substance instead of accumulating attention. For those who are just starting now, at 20 years old, with their entire lives ahead of them, you have an advantage that previous generations did not. You can see the trap before falling into it. You can learn from the mistakes of those who came before. You can choose the difficult path early, instead of being forced into it too late. True wealth is not in how many people want you. It is in who you become when no one is watching. True privilege is not receiving easy validation. It is having the strength not to need it. True success is not being desired by many. It is being valuable to the right ones. This story has no villains. Only people trapped in a system that no one designed, but everyone feeds. The way out is not blame. It is understanding. And after understanding, acting differently. If this content made you think, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. And in the comments, tell us which city or country you are watching from and what this reflection awakened in you.